Hey everybody, it's Frozen with Outdoor Adventures, and thank you so much for joining me. I do want to apologize. I forgot. I was going through my video drive, my video editing drive, and I came across these questions right here from the Ask a Thru Hiker 20 questions from 2019. I am totally sorry. I guess I got sidetracked with doing these. Did the Appalachian Trail, A Journey of the Soul documentary, and then COVID hit, and then my hiking season began, and I honestly just completely forgot about it. So I figured it's better late than never, and I would like to answer these remaining questions. We got about 25 questions, but let's do it. So first question is, how did your body react to typical hiker low budget food choices like Spam? So for me, I was trying to eat protein bars, north sides. I would always try to add some protein with chicken and tuna creations and string cheese and nuts and peanut butter. It's very hard to get the amount of protein that your body actually needs to repair your muscles after you've been hiking for 15 to 25 miles, whatever it ended up to be a day. And my body did react a little strange at first. Just typical, you have to go number 2. You can't wait, find the nearest place to get yourself secluded and dig your cat hole. There were some very, very close calls where your body just wasn't used to it, but I think everything got ironed out right after around Virginia, Pennsylvania time frame. And that's when I could actually, get my body to wait more than 5 minutes. Now, this question relates to the next question I'm going to read, which is, I'm curious about whether you had to dig cat holes and how many. Were there enough privies on the way to get you by? I want to say that I probably dug between 40 and 50 cat holes. I think that's a reasonable number. It's a guesstimate, obviously. There were just so many privies the whole way up. There were privies in every shelter site. Sometimes there were privies just scattered along the trail. I didn't run into too many issues. There's like Tennessee, I believe, they don't have any privies. That's part of the Smokies. They don't have any privies. So you're stuck digging cat holes there. But for the most part, there are plenty of privies the whole way up. So yeah, I didn't really dig that many cat holes on the trail, but I definitely do recommend carrying a trowel. Third question, do you prefer paracord or zing it for your tarp? I absolutely prefer zing it or some kind of line that isn't stretchy and useless like paracord. I don't see, for camping, I don't see any purpose of bringing paracord. It's heavy. When it gets wet, it sags, it stretches. It's not good. It's not good rope. If you want to do some bushcrafting to tie up in your shelter and stuff, that's another story. But to use it on your tarp knowing that it can get wet and then it'll start sagging on you, I don't like it. Just get yourself zing it. As an aspiring thru hiker, how long did it take you to save up for your trip? How early did you make the absolute decision that you were going to hike? All right, so for me, I believe I saved up for 2.5 years. You figure it's gonna cost about $1,000 a month to thru hike. Now that is just on trail expenses. You also have to worry about your at-home expenses. Unless you're totally just packing up, selling your home and starting a thru hike, I don't think that's the norm. I think the norm is what I did. You're having someone house sit perhaps. Maybe they're paying a little bit of rent like I did with my girlfriend at the time, Chrissy. But ultimately, I needed about $10,000 to survive financially through my thru hike. I should preface that saying that I lived in a smaller house than I do now, way smaller house. My mortgage was not that high and my utility bills reflected the size of the house. So I didn't have a lot of at-home expenses. Most of the YouTube earnings I made from the thru hike paid for my at-home expenses, almost, until tax season. I was making about, I want to say $800 to $1,200 max on the AT, but those are before taxes. So I did get hit pretty hard during my tax return the following year. So those are just things to consider. Like, do you have a car payment, perhaps? School loans? You have to factor all that information in before you say, okay, I need this amount of money to survive up to 6 months while I'm thru hiking. When did I make the decision to do the thru hike? I made it, so I started in February of 2019, and in April of 2018, I had decided that I was definitely able to do this. How many melanzonas have you helped sell? I got this question quite a bit. Hey, Frozen, what's that hoodie you have on? Frozen, I'd really like to know what your hoodie is. Hey Frozen, you know that blue hoodie you're always wearing? What is it? Guys, it's a Melanzana hoodie. It's actually the one that I'm wearing right now. I think I've actually helped sell not a whole lot of Melanzanas. As much as I've received this comment, I haven't sold a lot because they're really, really hard to find. Unless you live in Leadville, Colorado, you're more than likely not going to be able to find one. Now, the first one that I got, I actually reached out to someone on a Colorado hiking forum, and they were nice enough to buy them for me. I threw them a couple bucks for their time and aggravation. They went to the Leadville store and then they shipped it to me. So I paid the shipping and the cost. But it seems like they are getting so hard to find because everybody in Leadville is buying them up and then just selling them on eBay for double their cost, which I don't like the way that that's happening. I feel like Leadville Melanzana should just make custom orders online so people aren't doing the whole eBay thing. I think a lot of people would be happy to wait for them to get in stock, but hey, they're their own business. They do what they want to do. And now that there are several other people kind of doing the same type of hoodie. So you got the Appalachian Gear Company making the alpaca fleece, which I've heard is amazing. It's really warm. It's really nice. I've seen it in person, though I've never worn one yet. We have the Patagonia R1, which I can attest to. It's a very, very good hoodie. Very warm, very comfortable. Another company to look into is Lightheart Gear. They make a very, very similar model to the Melanzana microgrid. There's a few things in different places, but for the most part, it's kind of the same design. Now that hoodie specifically is going under development for the male body now. The female pattern is already out, but they are making a guy-specific version for it. So you might want to check those. I'll throw all the links down in the description below. But yeah, didn't sell a lot of hoodies, as many comments as I've had about it. For the Great Smoky Mountains, would you have considered a bivy to protect you from the leaky roofs? Would I have used sealskin socks again, or would you switch it to waterproof shoe for the earlier days? Also, do you wish you would have brought micro spikes? Okay, so a couple questions in this one. I don't think I would have considered a bivy. I think it would have been extra weight, not needed, and really, if worse comes to worse, I would have just used my my rain gear, so rain pants, my rain jacket to protect myself, as I was already carrying those items. No need to carry a bivy on top of a hammock and a sleeping pad setup, as I was hammock camping the most of the trail, but I had to bring an extra sleeping pad just to stay in the shelters to follow the rules and regulations of the Smokies. So I don't think I would have brought a bivy at all. There was only one shelter with leaky roofs, and we fixed it with a bucket. Would I use the sealskin socks again? Yeah, I would definitely use these. In fact, last week I just had a video about what I did wrong with these. I actually let these dry by a fire, and it ruined the membrane, the waterproof membrane inside of these. If you're not familiar with these, I give some great info in the previous video. I'll link it right up in the cards above. And final part about that question is, do you wish you would have brought micro spikes? Could have went either way. If I would have been there a couple days earlier, we would have had temperatures in the low teens, and I think I would have been in trouble. But I was lucky, and I did get by, and I was very, very careful coming down off of Klingman's Dome. Is there anything you could have done different to prevent your knee pain? So for those that don't know, my knee pain started in Vermont and continued really, really harshly all the way up until I touched that Katahdin sign. And what I think I could have done differently there was actually just kept on with my stretching. I was really good about stretching early in the mornings and maybe a mile down the trail when I started hiking for the first 2 months, and then I started slacking. Nothing was bothering me, and I just beat myself up without stretching, especially at night. Right before bed, you should get your stretches in. Right when you get to camp, another set of stretches, There are things that you can do to make your muscles and your joints feel better, but even after all that, your knees are just going to hurt. It's just something about thru hiking. Would you suggest NOBO, SOBO, or flip-flop? Would you get the hardest section out of the way first? Would I change my timing at all? So first of all, NOBO is northbound, SOBO is southbound, and flip-flop is you kind of start at the halfway point, either go north or south, and then you finish up and come back with the remaining sections. So honestly, any of the three, really. I think SOBO would probably be a little bit easier because you're starting out and getting all the hard stuff out of the way first. If you're already conditioned, the way to go is definitely SOBO, in my opinion. Going northbound, you're not going to reach really any hard parts after you get out of Georgia and the Smokies till about Vermont. That's when it starts getting hard again, and then that difficulty level continues all the way through Maine. Would I change my timing at all? I started February 23rd, and no, I would keep the exact same date. I was very pleased with it. We had cool weather to start with, and then we had nice, calm spring and summer, early summer weather. Chafing is really annoying in hot weather, and I just don't like it. I'd rather just deal with the bugs. When you looked for a new job, what was your employer's reaction to the thru hike? When I got my interview set up for September, which was 3 months after I got back from my thru hike, they did ask me in my interview where I had been from January to, up to that point. And I explained it. I was honest. I was truthful. I said that I was in the middle of wanting a job changed, and I wanted a career change, and I felt in the meantime I wanted to do something amazing. And they were very understanding. I think their opinion was, they were real suspicious at first, but when I laid it all out on the line for them, they were very understanding, and they were actually inspired. They asked a lot of questions about the thru hike. They asked to see pictures, and ultimately, I think that's what really helped me land the job, surprisingly, because, hey, it's a great story. Where have you been for the past 6 months? Oh, I just spent my time hiking 2,200 miles up the East Coast. So yeah, it's a good little lead-in story. It helps break the ice. But they weren't like fearful or thinking that I was going to jump ship at all. So it worked out for me. All right, where did you get your hat? I love this thing. I actually wear this hat when I'm coming back from my backpacking trips, just so people know that, oh, that's why that guy stinks so bad. He's hiker trash. So I don't know if it helps or not. I just like assuming that people know what that means. So whenever I go in to get a burger, a post-trail burger, this is the hat that I'm wearing. And you can buy this hat at outinthewild.life. I'll leave a link in the video description. Hold on, guys. Turn off the furnace. All right, there we go. Starting in February, how did you handle your tax return? So first off, my tax returns are a little complicated, and it's just a big pain in the butt, and I don't understand taxes anyway, so I usually get a CPA to do my taxes for me. Printed everything out, sent it over to my CPA, and handed Chrissy a check for whenever the CPA sent the stuff back, and she ended up doing the rest of my tax return. What trekking poles are you going to use in the future? Aluminum or carbon? My carbon poles ended up breaking multiple times on the trail, and I swore that I would never buy carbon poles again, and I'm going to stay true to that just because they're not worth it to me. Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Maine, they just kept breaking. Luckily, I was under the 1-year carbon lecky warranty, and they did send me a new pair of poles when I returned from the trail. So after those break, I will be looking at some kind of Black Diamond or Lakey trekking poles. I'm leaning more toward Lakey because they offer a great customer service and warranty program, especially for the thru hikers that are on trail. They actually won't even ask for your pole back. They just send it to you to the nearest hostel or whatever location you were at. So that's what I did. Did you miss any views on the AT due to bad weather? I missed a ton of views on the AT due to foggy conditions or rain or ice or snow or whiteouts. One of those, just off the top of my head, was Waya Bald. There were also a couple mountains up in New Hampshire in the White Mountains that we missed as a tramley together. I do really want to go see those views that I did miss, especially the one on Waya Bald. But, time will tell when I can get back down there. It's not an urgent priority for me, but, I was so lucky. I saw Franconia Ridge and Mount Washington and Clingman's Dome on perfect days, and I really can't complain about missing the odd view here and there. I know people that, went all the way up to Pennsylvania without seeing the majority of their views, like my buddy Gary, who thru hiked in 2018. So I can't complain here, and I possibly will visit them in the future. I want to try some cold weather camping on the AT this winter, but torn between my 20 Fahrenheit down or 20 Fahrenheit synthetic sleeping bags. Which one would I kind of bring or recommend? So I didn't have really any problems with down gear. As long as you got a tarp over your head, I don't see a problem. The only thing that I can see after switching to a tent this year was that tents are definitely more condensation susceptible than a hammock tarp. If you think about it, really you're getting a double wall tent in a hammock because you have the tarp and then you have the bug net and then you have the hammock material. So they're not touching, they're not one and the same. You can set them up completely independently, but like something like the Z-Pax Plexamid, which is the tent that I'm currently using, there's a great deal of more condensation. So honestly, I would say if you have a way to dry out your down bag throughout the day, you know, leave it out in the sun for lunch, you know what I mean? Put it out in the morning when you're getting ready, you know, you're eating breakfast. I think you'll be fine. I really don't like synthetic bags because the more you compress them, the more you're breaking down those fibers, and then that translates into lower warmth overall. Well, just my opinion. I'm sure there are several others with different opinions out there as well. Any reason you chose late February and not March or April for a start date? I didn't want to start with a lot of people, so I knew the March 1st date was, you know, too much for me, and I didn't want to run into just hot, disgusting weather. I hate chafing, like I said earlier in this video, and I was really happy with my date. We only had maybe 3 or 4 nights that were unbelievably cold, you know, dipping below the 20-degree mark. But other than that, I had great sleeping weather the whole way up. What do you do for foot care? Specifically things like putting on wet socks in the morning to start your day off with wet feet, having a separate pair of sleep socks, etc. As far as foot care, I don't really do too much, and I'm thankful for that. Over the past several years, I've conditioned and beat up my feet so much that I don't really develop any kind of blisters anymore. I might get one every now and then, but you know, pop that with a needle and then you're done with it. I do still, however, get cracked, dry feet whenever they are exposed to damp environments, like, you know, wet socks, for instance, over an extended amount of time. And I do have a secret weapon for that if you're struggling with it, and it's Rocket Pure hand and foot balm. For those that have been following the channel for a while, you're probably so sick and tired of me talking about this, and I'm so sorry, but this is a game changer for me. I had wet, cracked feet on the, I think it was the Susquehanna Trail system. It was the most agonizing thing I've ever went through in my entire life. So I just found out about this balm stuff, and this is like an essential piece of kit in my backpack. So give it a try. I think it's like 10 bucks. If it works for you, great. You just solved a huge problem with wet feet. If not, it's only 10 bucks. I'll leave a link in the video description. As far as putting on your wet socks in the morning, there's no real way that you're ever going to get used to that or be happy about doing it. So what I recommend and what I've done is if your socks are both wet, if you have 2 pairs of socks like I do, I just dry them out right before I pack up in the morning. So while I'm still kind of sleeping, I'll put my wet socks in my pockets of my pants. I will let them kind of warm up, so you're not putting a cold wet sock on, you're just putting a wet sock on. So see if that works for you. Hopefully that helps. You mentioned chores a lot in your video. What do you mean by chores? All right, so whenever I said chores, I meant cooking dinner, eating dinner, hanging your food bag, switching clothes, making sure you got all the smellables out of your backpack, like from your garbage bag or your snack bag or whatever you're using. It takes probably about an hour and a half, maybe 45 minutes to get everything together so you're ready to be in bed by 8 o'clock because you're so tired, you need your sleep. And you know, the earlier you get on the trail, the more mileage you can get in. So you want to go to bed early. You want to get that jump start. You don't want to be struggling with camp chores at 11 o'clock and then have to wake up super early to get the miles that you wanted to get in that day. So that's just what I meant by camp chores. Would you recommend going to trail days or other events to learn more information and getting more excited doing the thru hike? Do you think adding some super glue to your kit is a good idea for repairs and cuts? Would it have fixed your trekking poles? I think it is a great idea to attend a hiking event like Trail Days. Now, I was way past Damascus, which is where Trail Days is usually held, Damascus, Virginia, on my thru hike, but I had plans the following year to go back. But I do think it's a great idea to talk to some thru hikers that are actively going in it. You know, listen to their trials and tribulations, successes and failures, and, you know, see what it's all about before you make the conscious decision that, yes, this is something I want to do. I think it's a great idea to do it. I think everybody should be carrying a little tube of super glue. It doesn't weigh anything. As far as it fixing my trekking poles though, those things snapped completely in half. There was no fixing it, no coming back. I held it together a little bit with duct tape, you know, several rolls of duct tape, but I never was able to fix it. Do you ever get a rash on your shoulders from your straps? Is it possibly heat rash? I'm trying to think back. I believe I did have a small red rash where my shoulder straps landed on my Osprey Atmos 65. Now this was the first backpack I ever got And man, I was probably carrying at that time 35 to 45 pound base weight, no joke. And that's, I think, why I ended up getting that. As soon as I kind of dropped my weight a little bit, I landed on an Osprey Exos 48 liter, and I don't think I've had anything past that. The only thing I can remember other than that is when you're wearing your pack for like a long 20, 25 mile day, my hips sometimes get chafed. And the way I go about stopping that kind of thing is just baby powder, something simple like that. I actually really like baby powder for chafing of the groin area and the butt. If you can put baby powder all over yourself, then notice that you really don't get chafed. Try that. If not, maybe your shoulder straps just aren't right for you. Tips and tricks for hostel stays. And also, did you pick up any critters like lice when you're in the hostels? So I didn't pick up any critters. I didn't get lice or any kind of bed bugs or anything like that. Every hostel that I stayed at was really clean. You could tell that they did the sheets before me. I didn't really run into any dirty hostels, though I did hear about some dirty hostels along the way. I can't remember any names off the top of my head, but everything that I stayed at personally was super clean, and the staff was really, really nice. A lot of the hostels have these things called hiker boxes where people leave sealed up food. You could sometimes find full bags of Oreos and chips and ramen noodles and north sides, a whole bunch of food, beef jerky. As long as it's sealed, you can find it in the hiker box. If it's not sealed, you really shouldn't be putting it in there, as you've probably touched it with your hand, and that is known to spread disease, and you don't want to do any of that. But if you could find a sealed bag of trail mix, ramen, again, just take it out of the box before you do your resupply. Same with gear. I can't tell you how many times I've seen extra socks or something in the hiker box. No holes, just that probably didn't work out for them. And for those that need an extra sock or an Injinji liner, you could find some of those in the hiker boxes whenever you went. So you always find gold in them, you just got to look. And I think that about covers it, everybody. So if there's any questions, especially that I missed, or any new questions regarding the AT thru hike, or even if it's just regular hiking and backpacking and camping, I'd be happy to answer those. Might even do a live stream if we can get some questions here. I haven't done one of those in a long time. But everybody, thanks for watching. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit that button down below and click on that notification bell. I can't tell you guys how important that is to let you guys know when I post new content. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you on the trail.